I want to shift now to our chart of the day, staying on the theme of the employment market. Again, we were highlighting the gains specifically just now in leisure and hospitality, but the broad-based gains has not been felt in every industry. Take a look at this. This is nursing, specifically nursing and residential care facilities. The picture remains dire. It shows the industry contracting by about 406,000 since the beginning of the pandemic. That's about 12% of the workforce gone. And, Akiko, we have touched on this story before, but to see that the picture has not improved at all, it is essentially plateaued at the bottom here, underscores not only the stresses physically that these nurses had to endure being on their feet during the depths of the pandemic, but also the mental health aspect of all of this as well.
Yeah, I mean, we have seen so many clips throughout this pandemic from nurses who have taken to social media, taken to, TV, even on our show, who've said, look, burnout is a real issue. And obviously, they have had to deal with one wave after another. But just because the cases are starting to come down doesn't mean that there's necessarily relief, because there's a backlog of cases. A lot of those surgeries, for example, other issues that were put on hold as a result of the pandemic, there's a bit of a catch-up period happening too. So, I'd be curious to see how many nurses actually quit their jobs, like leave the industry altogether, because I would argue more than the workload itself, the emotional toll has been really significant. And they've been on the front lines having to tackle COVID for these last 2 years.
Yeah, and such an important point, too, that, all the clapping and the pot banging in New York City during the beginning of the pandemic wasn't enough to, overcome ultimately the challenges day to day for these people that saved lives during the pandemic. And I think that it goes to show that in the context of this labor market recovery, it's more than just wages. You're hearing stories about well-paid nurses still calling it quits because the mental health aspect of all of this and the work-life balance is still very much an open question. So that is going to be a barrier, not just in the nursing industry, but I'm sure other industries as well, something for employers to keep in mind.